Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be going over all of my favorite single-purpose devices that I use, starting with the Anbernic SP. So I do have real Game Boys, but the reason why I prefer this handheld emulator over the real thing is simply because it's backlit. I know you can modernize Game Boys and give them backlit screens, but I'd rather keep my Game Boys originally as they are and then just use this device on the go instead. I also like the clamshell design where it folds in half and you can put it in a smaller pocket or something like that. Now this thing is still pretty big, so if you wear women's clothing or women's pants, obviously the pockets are probably not going to be big enough to hold this, as they are never big enough to hold anything, but this definitely fits in like a purse, even a smaller purse, so that's why I really like it and bring it with me. I love playing all my retro games. I also love how all the games are actually in the device, so I don't have to bring all these different cartridges with me. Like when I'm at home, I prefer playing on the real Game Boy, but I also like this on the go because it's bright enough, it's rechargeable, you don't have to carry all the extra things like cartridges with you, and I really enjoy playing on this. Now I do have smaller devices such as the Anbernic RG Nano, which I'll get out right now. Obviously it's a lot smaller than the SP and definitely could fit in a pocket, and it's small enough to be even on a keychain, but this one is so small that it's really not that much fun to use. Even though I do really like it, it's really the idea of it's really cool, but it's really small and it makes your hands crampy, so that's why I don't end up using that. So that's why I prefer my SP. My SP is just my favorite console to be using on the go, and I don't see myself replacing it with anything else in the time being. And I also like how when you fold it up, obviously the screen's protected, so that's another key because it looks like an old pod, but it functions like newer stuff with Bluetooth and things like that. My favorite feature overall about this is the fact that you can just drag and drop your files onto it. You don't need any special software, where with the iPods, you need iTunes, and if you don't buy the music through iTunes, you have to go and manually add every single album, every single song, and it's really annoying. Whereas if with this MP3 player, you literally just drag and drop your files and it'll mostly auto sort all of your files, unless you download them individually. Then you might have to change it up yourself to get the correct artwork and album work and artists to show up. But overall, it's still a pretty cool MP3 player, and it has Bluetooth, and you can technically put ebooks on it as well, but I don't use it for that. I use it specifically for my music. There's also a nice little thing on the bottom that can make it into a keychain, which I really like, and of course you can plug in wired headphones, but there's also Bluetooth if you want to use wireless. I prefer wired, so that's what I do with this MP3 player. I will say using the wheel to navigate can be a little annoying at times, because the menu button sometimes is the select button and the back button's the bottom button, and it's kind of confusing. You have to read the manual that comes with it, and the manual is a little bit hard to read because I think the creators of this, obviously English isn't their first language, which is nothing wrong with that. It's just the menu's a little hard to read. Overall, I really like this MP3 player, so I do end up finding myself using this the most, just because of how easy it is to add newer music to it. Also because it's newer, there's an SD card you can put into it, so you can upgrade your storage and put a lot of music, whereas with the old iPods, at least the ones I have, they only have 8 gigabytes of music available, so that fills up really quickly, unlike with this MP3 player where I can have 64 gigabytes of storage, which is a lot more helpful. And next up, I have one of the older iPod Nanos. I'm not sure which one this actually is off the top of my head. Somebody can let me know down below. But I do like it because it's so small and light. Now, of course, the storage is a little bit smaller on that, so that's a downside. But I find the wheel easier to use. At first, I wasn't a fan of it, but it is quick to learn and easy to use, so I do like it, and it's much more responsive than that cheap MP3 player. The wheel on the MP3 player isn't always the most responsive either, but on this iPod works great. There's not too much storage, which is fine, but I still prefer to use this half the time with wired headphones. Now, another thing I like about iPods in general is obviously the music you have on here is yours. It's yours to keep. Now, I know that, the places like iTunes can technically take it away, but obviously as a modern Apple Music user, sometimes if I find a really cool song on TikTok, you can add it to Apple Music through the app, but then a month later it'll be this song's unavailable. And this has happened more than 5, 6, 7 times. This has been happening a lot, so the music's gone, I can't listen to it, so it's gone. But if I had it on my MP3 player or on my iPod, it's mine to keep forever because I have the physical file for it. So that's another thing I really like about using these, and I will continue to use them specifically because of that. I also like how thin this iPod is. You can literally fit it anywhere. I really wish they made I think there is an iPod Nano that has a touchscreen that's like this size, but I wish there was like a new modern one with better storage that I could get, and I would definitely get that. And I don't have too much else to say about this iPod other than that I just like that it's offline. You have access to everything. You don't lose access to anything unless you physically remove it. But the one downside is having to use iTunes, which can be a pain in the butt today because I feel like Apple's low-key trying to get rid of iTunes altogether. They just want Apple Music. But it still works as of right now, so it's not the worst. But it's just annoying if you have your own music. You have to go through and add every single file. And next up we have is the iPod Touch first generation. Okay, I will say out of all of my offline music, okay, this can be connected to Wi-Fi, but I still only use it offline. I find myself using this the most just because the touchscreen makes navigation so much easier. So I definitely love the original iPod Touch for this reason. Of course, it does have Bluetooth as well, like this old MP3 player, but it has less storage than the MP3 player. And it only has 8 gigabytes, I think, or the MP3 player can be upgraded to a lot more. But I just find the touchscreen a lot easier than that little wheel that both the iPods and the MP3 player have on them. The one downside to this iPod Touch, I already said it like 6 times, I'm going to say it again, is the use of needing to use iTunes. Obviously, this iPod does not support Apple Music, not that I need it to. I prefer to use my files, but again, can be a pain in the ass, can be a pain to use iTunes. You also have the really old charger that comes with it, and I don't mind that. I still have mine, so no big deal. And then, of course, you can use wired headphones with this as well, and I like to use those over Bluetooth, so I still find myself using my old iPod. The one thing that has nothing to do with the use of the iPod that I regret is that I reset this, like factory reset this, and I lost all of my old apps, and I didn't know that most of these apps had been retired from the App Store forever. Like, I used to play like the really old version of Plants vs. Zombies, and there's some other game called Zombie Farm and Zombie Cafe. There were all these like little weird App Store games that were a lot of fun, and they're gone forever because the App Store doesn't even work on this iPod Touch anymore, and those apps themselves have been removed, so it's really annoying. I think I might have had Flappy Bird on this. I feel like even by the time that Flappy Bird came off, this iPod Touch was becoming like not out of style, but it was like out of date. It was just becoming outdated. Next up, I have this white CD player that I got off a TikTok shop. This is like a modern CD player because it has USB-C charging. It also has a built-in speaker on the bottom. It's really quiet. I don't use the speaker at all. And this one can also connect to Bluetooth headphones. I usually don't end up using Bluetooth headphones too much, except for like when I'm cleaning or organizing something or just moving stuff around. So most of the time I'll use wired headphones, but with this one specifically, I will use my Bluetooth headphones. And all the color choices that came with this CD player are pretty cool. I prefer like a blank white one. I know minimalism, like I hate minimalism, but in this one case, I do like it for the CD player. It is nice. I prefer it over like the older CD player looks, but maybe it's just because I didn't have any nice looking CD players. I just had this silver and blue one. And now let me talk about this. This is obviously actually from like the early 2000s. It has built-in radio, and it's just a CD player. You have to use AA batteries to use it, which is fine, but it could be annoying, like especially if you have a CD player and if it dies while you're using it, you have to take it out, take out the batteries, then put the batteries in, then put the CD back in. Whereas if with the rechargeable CD player, you can just plug it in. So there's both ways, but I'll use both. The reason why I have two is simply because if one dies, I'll use the other. So if my rechargeable one dies, I'll switch over to this one. I have rechargeable AA batteries that I'll use for this CD player, and they work fine, but then they'll die too, then I'll go back. So basically, depending on which one has more battery life is the one I'll end up using. Now, I have a bunch of CDs. I know some people don't really buy too many. I still have hundreds because I learned how to burn CDs, so I use those. On these, they work great. It's a lot of fun. And I had a phase where I canceled all my subscriptions, and before I ended up removing all my subscriptions, I burned like my entire Spotify library to CDs, and then eventually I did get Spotify again. I don't know, I'll go through a few months of using it, then canceling, and then using it, then canceling again. But the one thing I will say nice about streaming services is the fact that that's pretty much the only way to discover new music nowadays, because you can't discover new music with physical media, unfortunately, unless you go out and just buy it and hope you like it. But streaming music, it'll suggest stuff similar to what you listen to. Okay, next I have finally this big turntable looking CD player. I didn't really need a third CD player, but what I love about this is because it has built-in speakers. They're really high quality for what it is. And I like to, sometimes I just don't want to use earbuds or headphones at all. I'd rather just have the music out loud, especially again when I'm cleaning, when I'm organizing. And finally, I have this little camera. I don't use this as much as I should, but it is really cute. You know, the picture quality isn't the best, but neither were most cameras that were made for everyday use. Of course, you can get really nice cameras that are like hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I don't have those. I just have a cheap, normal, average, everyday consumer camera, and it works fine for what it is. I prefer using this for travel, so I don't use it too often because I don't travel that often, but it is really cool and it works for what it is. So usually what I'll do is I'll take pictures with this and with my phone, so I don't completely get rid of my phone, but I do use this as well and I like it. And that's pretty much all I have for today for single purpose devices. I don't really have too many more, so let me know if there's something else I should get, like maybe a cassette player. I don't know. I don't really like cassettes. I'm sorry, I don't. But thank you so much for watching.